Hello everyone, welcome back to PrepBee. And today we are going to do day 20 VARC practice. And here I am with unresolved passage of Fact 2022 plot 1. So let's get started. Before starting, let me make a quick announcement that we'll be starting our GDPI course from December 2nd. And you can check out the course. We have converted the students from all the top B schools, including the old IIMs last year. And we'll also conduct few free GDs. So please join our Telegram channels for more updates. Stories concerning the undead have always been with us. From out of the primal darkness of mankind's earliest years come whispers of eerie creatures not quite alive or alive in a way which we can understand, yet not quite dead either. These many these may have been ancient and primitive deities who dwelt deep in the surrounding forest and in remote places, or simply those deceased who refused to remain in their tombs and who wandered about the countryside, physically tormenting and frightening those who were still alive. So the sentences they introduce the idea that myths or tales about the undead they have existed throughout the human history. All right, since ancient times there have been myths or stories about mysterious beings that exist in a state between life and death, defying our normal understanding of these creatures. All right. And such stories might have originally been about gods or spirits believed to live in isolated areas or the undead who were thought to escape their graves and haunt the people who are actually alive. Mostly, they were ill defined, strange sounds in the night beyond the comforting glow of the fire, or shape half glimpsed in the twilight along the edge of an encampment. They were vague and indistinct, but they were always there with the power to terrify and disturb. They had the power to touch the minds of our early ancestors and to fill them with dread. Such fear formed the basis of earliest tales, although the source and exact nature of such terrors remain very vague. All right. So what the author is trying to say that these beings, the undead, they were very vague and very hard to define. They were ill-defined, that often only experiences such as sound or brief sightings were experienced beyond the safe light of a fire. So despite their unclear form, these creatures were consistently terrifying and unsettling to early humans. All right. These bring and inspire these beings. They inspired a fear deeply affecting the minds of your ancestors. All right. This fear of the unknown was the foundation of early tales that now we read. Even if the details of these creatures were very unclear, they formed the basis of the earliest tales. All right. And as mankind became more sophisticated, leaving the gloom of their caves and forming themselves into recognizable communities, towns, cities, whole culture, so the undead traveled with them, inhabiting the folklore just as they had in former times. So, as the humanity advanced, they formed societies. The concept of the undead also evolved and remained a part of the stories and the culture. Now they began to take on more definitive shape. Before they were they did not have any shape. They were vague, they were indistinct, and they were like strange sounds in the light, like that. But now they have definitive shape. They became walking cadavers, the physical embodiment of former deities and things which had existed alongside man since the creation. Some still remained vague and ill-defined, but as mankind strove to explain the horror which it felt towards them, such creatures emerged more readily into the light. All right. So the undead now became defined as reanimated corpses. They were seen as physical manifestations of ancient gods or beings that had always been present with the humanity. While some creatures were hard to describe, humanity's efforts to understand these fears led to more detailed, more recognizable forms of these creatures. All right. In order to confirm their abnormal status, many of the undead were often accorded attributes which define the natural order of things. The power to transform themselves into other shapes, the ability to sustain themselves by drinking human blood, and the ability to influence human minds across a distance. Such powers, described as supernatural, only lent an added dimension to terror that humans felt regarding them. So, to emphasize their supernatural power, the undead were given some, tags or powers that was beyond normal. Like, you could have gone to any other shape, or you can sustain yourself by drinking blood, or you can control someone's mind. So, these extraordinary abilities made these creatures even more terrifying to humans. And it was only natural too that the undead should become connected with the practice of magic. From very early times, shamans and witch doctors had claimed at least some power and control over the spirits of departed ancestors, and this has continued into more civilized times. Formerly, the invisible spirits and forces that thronged around men's earliest encampments had spoken through the primal shamans, but now, as entities in their own right, they were subject to magical control and could be physically summoned by a competent sorcerer. All right. So, given natural qualities, it was expected that stories of the undead would be associated with the magical practices as well. All right. Now, since very early times, spiritual leaders like shamans they have claimed to control or communicate with these spirits of the dead, a belief that has persisted even when the societies have become more civilized. All right. So initially, the shamans they were thought to communicate with spirits that weren't seen, but as beliefs evolved, these spirits were considered independent beings that sorcerers could summon through magic. All right. However, relationship between the magician and undead creature was often a very tenuous and uncertain one. Some sorcerers might have even become undead entities once they died, but they might also have been susceptible to the powers of other magicians when they did. So the bond or the control between a sorcerer and the undead was very fragile, was very unpredictable. Some believed that these sorcerers could turn into undead beings after death, yet they could still be vulnerable to magic of other sorcerers. From the Middle Ages into the Age of Enlightenment, theories of the undead continued to grow and develop. Their names became more familiar. Werewolf, vampire, troll, each one certain to strike fear into the hearts of ordinary humans. Now, let's do the passage questions. Which one of the following statement best describes what the passage is about? It discusses evolution of theories of the undead from primitive thinking to the age of enlightenment. Exactly what it is. First we were talking about it did not have any shape. फिर shape आया. Shape आने के बाद लोगों को लगा कि हम मैजिक से कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं. अभी एज ऑफ एनलाइटनमेंट में आ गए हैं. अभी हमारे पास नाम भी है सबके, किसको वैम्पायर बुलाएंगे, किसको वेयरवॉल्फ बुलाएंगे. So exactly what the passage is talking about. First one. In order to confirm their abnormal status, many of the undead were often accorded attributes which define natural order of the things. Which of the following best expresses the claim made in the statement? यहाँ पे बोला है कि abnormal status क्यों दिया जाता है? क्योंकि वो ये सारी चीजें करते हैं जो often human beings cannot. They can transform themselves into shapes or they can sustain themselves, all of that. So the undead are defeated in nature's order by giving them divine attributes. Divine नहीं है, हमें नहीं पता. According to the undead, an abnormal status is to reject the natural order of things. We are not rejecting the natural order of the things. Human beings conceptualize the undead as possessing abnormal features. Human beings, they are conceptualizing the undead as possessing abnormal features like drinking, sustaining on blood, all of that. They are rendered abnormal by changing their status. We really don't know. All of the following, if false, could be seen in accordance with the passage, except the undead remained vague and ill-defined, even as mankind strove to understand. Yes, true. The relationship between shamans and the undead was believed to be a strong and stable one. Was it strong and stable one? The relationship between this one? It is false, but it is The relationship between shamans and the undead was believed to be strong. Let's see. Where is shamans? Here. Okay, we'll hold on to this. This is false. They said it is unpredictable to some nature. The growing sophistication of mankind meant that humans stopped believing in the dead. They did not stop believing in the dead. The transition from the Middle Ages to the Age of Enlightenment saw new theories of the undead. Yes, it did. So this is there, this is there. Uh, undead remained vague and defined as wrong because now there are proper definitions. Now there are even they have become more familiar and we have even given names to it. So this is right. This is also right. Uh, all right. I mean, this is false, and this has been seen. This is false. This is false because they had a very unpredictable nature. This is false because we never stopped believing in the undead. And this is true. And hence, this will be your answer. I hope you understand. So all others are false. This one is true. And hence, this is your answer. Now, which one of the following observations is valid conclusion to draw from the statement? From out of the primal darkness of mankind's earliest years, come whispers of eerie creatures not quite alive, or in a way which we can understand, yet not quite dead either. So mankind's primal years were marked by creatures alive with eerie whispers, but seen only in darkness. We don't know this. They were marked by a belief in the existence of eerie creatures that were neither quite alive nor dead. Very clearly, this is what the statement says. They were not quite alive, they were not quite dead either. And hence, second is your answer. Now you need to capture the essence of the passage. It's not that the modern historians of medieval Africa have been ignorant about contacts between Ethiopia and Europe. They just had the power dynamic reversed. The traditional narrative stressed Ethiopia as weak and in trouble in the face of aggression and from external forces. So Ethiopia sought military assistance from their fellow Christians to the north. But the real story buried in plain sight in medieval diplomatic text simply had not been put together by modern scholars. Recent research pushes scholars of medieval Europe to imagine a much more richly connected medieval world. At the beginning of the so-called age of exploration, there is evidence that the kings of Ethiopia were sponsoring their own missions of diplomacy, faith, and commerce. All right. They are just saying that how we have been ignorant about the Ethiopia and European relations. Ethiopian leaders, they themselves sponsored their missions of diplomacy, and it was not that they were seeking help. They were not weak, they were not in trouble. Medieval history sources selectively promoted the narrative that powerful European forces were called on to protect weak civilizations, but this is far from reality. They were called on to protect, not really. So, were they called on? This is not mentioned. Medieval texts have been cherry-picked to promote a view of Ethiopia as weak and in need of Europeans' military help with aggressive neighbors. But recent studies reveals it was well connected and outward-looking nature. Yes, we'll hold on to this. Medieval texts have documented how strong connections between the Christian communities of Ethiopia and Europe were invaluable in establishing military and trade links. They were it did not document how strong connections were or how invaluable it was. We are not talking about that. Historians were under the illusion that Ethiopia needed military protection from their neighbors, but in fact, the country had close commercial and religious connections with them. First, we don't know about the first. Okay, fine. Even if we consider religious connections with his Christianity, they were not under the illusion, but they chose to write about something. They selectively chose. कि हाँ इसके बारे में लिखेंगे इसके बारे में नहीं रिवील करेंगे and hence second is your option. All right, now let's get to this parajumble. Fish skin collagen has excellent thermostability and tensile strength. making it ideal for use as bandage that adheres to the skin and adjusts to body movements. Collagen, one of the main structural proteins in connective tissues in human body, is well known for promoting skin regeneration. So it is introducing collagen and hence it is your introduction. So it is a main structural proteins and connective tissues in human body and it is for skin regeneration. Now, the fish skin swims in here as diseases and bacteria that affect fish are different from most pathogens. Here, the the risk of introducing disease agents into other species through use of pig and cow collagen proteins for wound healing has inhibited its broader application in the medical field. First medical field में क्या application है? Skin regeneration. उसके बाद broader applications भी आए हैं. So 2, 4. So into other species. What other species can be are there? Fish skin swims in here as diseases and bacteria and that affect fish are different from most human pathogens. So 3 and then 1. Which species? Fish species. The risk of introducing disease agents. The diseases यहाँ पे. And hence 4 and 3 are connected. 4 and 3 are a pair. Who is introducing your topic? And 2, 4, 3, 1 is your answer. So, best of luck for your exams. Thank you for today.